Oklahoma's only statewide newscast. This is the Oklahoma News Report.
A group of veterans also met at the state capitol today, but it was not a traditional Veterans Day observance. This group rallied to protest U.S. involvement in Iraq. Protesters included the fathers of 2 soldiers killed in the war. OETA's Lori Rasmussen explains why these veterans say it's time to bring all the soldiers home.
John Skripczyk of Wayne says his son would feel proud that his dad was speaking out against the war. Brian Skripczyk, a Marine corporal, died in September when he intercepted a suicide bomber, saving the lives of fellow troops in the process.
He died to save 30-some of his troops, and maybe if I could save 1 or 2 by speaking out, it would be the same difference.
Warren Henthorne of Choctaw served in the Air Force. He says though he was proud his son Jeffrey was serving his country in the Army, he opposed the war from the outset.
It looked to me like a Vietnam situation, and I'd served in that era, and I would have thought the politicians by that point, after that point, would see, well, there's no point in going to a war that is valueless.
Jeffrey died in 2005. After grieving for 6 months, Henthorne says he decided to speak out against the war. He says his opposition puts him in the majority. He also says more people are not out in the streets protesting the war because such a small percentage of Americans has a direct connection to a service member.
That's a lot different in Vietnam, where we had the draft and we had many families had a direct connection to the military. It's rare now, so people go down the street and they're just apathetic somewhat, I'd say, but I think even that's going to change.
And Thorne also says he's tired of politicians who pay lip service to supporting the troops but not delivering on promises to take care of our veterans.
They haven't been taking care of veterans. It's obvious the Walter Reed scandal and even the problems veterans have right here in Oklahoma City going with the VA. It's clear across the system. The system's been overwhelmed.
Retired Air Force Colonel Catherine Shearman agrees.
The VA is currently funded to take care of 5 million veterans. There are 26 million veterans in this country, and that is a moral obligation that our country has as well.
After 20 years as a military doctor, Colonel Shearman says she's tired of hearing political pundits call those who oppose the war unpatriotic.
There's no such thing as winning an occupation. That's basic military doctrine. You can't win an occupation. That's talked by people who don't know what they're talking about, who've never served a day in uniforms themselves.
Justin Clyburn currently serves in the Oklahoma National Guard and has returned from a 1-year tour of duty in Iraq. He says many of his fellow soldiers agree with his opposition, but fear speaking out.
Oddly enough, they're afraid of being called a coward. They were brave enough to go do what they did, and then they come back and they're not brave enough to speak out, and I think the true coward is that person.
Rally speakers today did have differing opinions of how to go about getting the troops out of Iraq, but they did agree that returning veterans will face health and emotional issues for years to come. At the state capitol, Lori Rasmussen, Oklahoma News Report.